I'm prepared to say that I think people need to shut the fuck up and talk about how other eras are better than this era of bodybuilding. I'll say that. Because when you look at the guys that are going to be in the top 5, you've got Derek, Hottie, Nick, Samson, Andrew. You're like, look how incredible these bodybuilders are. So I don't want to hear about how this era of bodybuilding isn't good.
Okay.
All right.
But I'm moving.
Yeah. Like I said before, your face is not the reason people are here.
You wish that it was frozen and blurry, but it is not.
You can just sit there like this if you want.
I found that the show does best if I shoot like this.
Okay. Okay. We ready to roll?
We are rolling.
I forgot what I'm even doing.
I don't know where I am
It's the latest we've started in a long time.
Yeah.
I know.
Feels like a Friday at the office where everyone shows up in jeans.
I should have worn a Hawaiian shirt. Damn it.
You know, but it's perfect, though, for episode 300. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get going. Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm Big Ron Partlow, and, of course, I got Dusty Hanshaw and the producer, Scott McNally. And today we got a special guest joining us once again, our multiple return visitor, Justin Shier. What's going on, Justin?
Not a whole lot, man. I mean, how many times have I been on here? Is this like number 4 or 5?
I think it's 4. I think it's
You're
4.
the record holder.
You're definitely the most frequent guest.
Well, it's an honor. I'm proud to be here.
Okay.
You just tell a good poop story, and then you're.
Yeah, you got to have at least one new one every time you come on.
Tell another poop story. Yeah.
I've got a poop story I can tell. I'll tell one.
Every time he gets a new one, he comes on.
Yeah.
You gotta remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, IamMutant.com. Go to IamMutant.com. Use Dusty20 or Big Ron 20. Keep us employed. Get your stuff 20% off. Everyone should get some IsoSurge, some All-In, and you should all be on the gear. Everyone should get on the gear. Lots of gear. When you come out to me at the expo, you better look like you're on the gear. Okay, Justin, you are a guest on. It's episode 300.
It's the big one.
So we're doing a lot of things for episode 300. We got you on as a special guest. We're also using a new program, just for those of you that are into the tech side of things. Scott's trying out a new program.
Yes.
We'll see how it works out. So if we
doesn't.
Or doesn't. Yeah. So if we
so far,
ugly
so far, Dusty couldn't figure it out, so he's on his phone.
Yeah. Dusty's already off to a very poor start.
Yeah, typical. Slow starts.
You think you'd have it right. 300 episodes in, but no. This is what I work with, guys. This is what I work with.
Yeah, you got to change it up on him.
I want to start out with the most shocking part of that whole thing. I asked Scott, I said, we should, Dusty said we should look up the first episode again and just like show a clip.
Yeah.
And so Scott pulls it up and I go, what's the date on that? And he goes, it's 5 years ago. And I go, what? And he goes, it was August 19th, 2019?
It's crazy, man. August 14th, 2019. It's Just Bodybuilding, episode 1. And it says, co-hosts Big Ron Partlow and Dusty Hanshaw team up to bring you some of the realest bodybuilding chat and most exciting guests in the industry.
Wow. We couldn't find any exciting guests, so we just got Justin again.
I don't have much going on. So
we started out with big intentions.
We were dreaming big on episode 1.
Yeah.
Hey, I still hold that number 15 spot. I'm still the 15th worst bodybuilder in the world right now. For four more weeks.
That's a very tough. That's a tight group.
Hey, man.
Yeah. But just think of the company you keep. Yeah. Like, isn't that, who else got that placing at the O? Like Andreas Munzer?
Yeah.
And like, was it Jay Cutler 15th one year?
Hey,
like,
man,
that's it. Ronnie.
People love
like
some of the best bodybuilders in the world placed last place at the Olympia, so I'm in good company.
Yeah, like it's fine. You're doing all right.
An elite group of guys.
And hey, let's compare bank accounts. Right?
Yeah.
Some of the guys that got
doesn't matter where it comes
to
from.
fly home.
Yeah.
Why'd you move to Vegas? Well, it's where I spent my last dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, that typical gambler that never left Vegas. There's Olympia competitors that have done that.
Oh, for sure.
Bodybuilding was their gamble.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start out. I want to ask you. You got some. You said you're buying a bunch of equipment and you're doing another space. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so I am getting a new location for my gym. So I mean, you and I talked because you were talking about coming and doing like the Mutant on a Mission, and then I think I closed down like a month later. So we never made it happen. But I just had some issues with my landlord, and we just couldn't come to terms on a new lease. So I've got a new location. I'm working on building it out right now, and yeah, we're gonna spend a ton of money and go bankrupt and try to build a cool gym.
But you're going to reopen a public gym, is what you meant.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you miss the most about? Because I know you got this. You got your own private, like, you got your favorite equipment in that room, and you can do whatever you want in there, and you've got this like private. You must feel like a Bond villain having your own training facility like that.
It's pretty nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice at times.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But is there anything you miss about the public gym? Like, what would you miss? What are you looking forward to about having your gym open again?
I mean, dude, there's a lot of stuff I miss, and then there's a lot of stuff I don't miss.
Right. Well, that was the next question. But yeah, do what you tell me what you got to tell me.
Bye. I'll see you later. So I miss like the energy. You have a good gym, so when you build a good community and you have like good people who like to fucking train. Like, I'm not even necessarily talking about bodybuilders. A lot of the hardest working guys in my gym were like blue collar guys that would come in fucking a pair of jeans and then just bench press at 5 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you just kind of miss that energy where you walk in, you fucking crank the music, but fucking you hear metal plates clanging and everybody's training, and you just kind of dive in with the group and you get a good workout in, and you can feed off that energy. And then there's some times where, like, I was just watching a video, something popped up on my Instagram, and it was this time last year, and I was 3-4 weeks out from the Olympia or whatever, and then I saw like this kid in the background that I know drove me fucking nuts. And I was like, oh man, I don't miss that. That kid used to ask me so many questions all the time. So I'm thinking, like, as soon as I start feeling, like, sometimes I'm like, man, I miss my gym. And then I'm like, but how sweet is this? I don't have to deal with anybody. Because sometimes as the owner,
right,
you get like, you got to put on the face. Like, I don't care if I'm a few weeks out from a show, I still have to smile, meet new members, and do the whole thing. So it definitely has its perks, but as a whole, I like having a public space. I like having a community. I like that environment where, like, chalk's flying and people are training their ass off and music's loud, and yeah, I like it. I miss it.
Yeah, totally get it. Now, what's the best part about being all by yourself?
I mean, just being by myself, not having to deal with other people's shit, And so one thing, I just leave the weights on my machine. So there's 4 plates on my leg press at all times, so I never have to, like, it's my starting weight every time. I just fucking leave it. And
I wish I could do that. I get chewed out by the wife every time. She says, somebody left the weight stack loaded up. I get it every week.
She bitches at me for some stuff, but she also starts with 4 plates on the leg press, so it's totally okay.
Oh.
What it is, we have hundreds. So we have 2 hundreds on each side, and I never have to take the hundreds off, which is like fucking right on. Because those hundreds have to move.
Have you guys ever been to a gym that had weights bolted or welded onto the leg press?
No.
Oh yeah.
So I have a couple times. I was at a gym. The leg press had a center pin.
Yeah.
And there were 4 plates on the center pin, just 4 plates, so like 2 plates aside, right?
Yeah.
4 plates on the center pin, and then there was a metal collar on the pin, and the metal collar was spot welded on.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
So so you had, like, it was like 2 plates aside was the minimum amount that you could do on that leg press. And there were other leg presses, but that leg press had plates welded onto it. And I don't quite know why. Like, maybe the owner just wanted a leg press that no beginners would ever use. Like, he just wanted one to usually be open. I don't know. But it was an interesting strategy. I just thought, wow, that's funny. Yeah.
Whenever I would hire people, so, like, a lot of times I had, like, nice young girls working the front desk, and they would come and That sounded perverted, right? I didn't fucking mean
Nice
like
young
that.
little
girl.
bit, little bit.
To be honest,
pleasant youth.
yes, exactly. So Jasmine usually did the hiring, and she would just like hire girls within the gym that she got along with because she like managed the place. And I would always make sure I'd take them down to the leg press, and I'm like, I need you to take this 100-pound plate off the leg press. Can you do it? It'd be like the 100-pound plate test, and every once in a while they couldn't do it. Like you need to work on that because you're gonna have to be able to strip these things because people leave them. Sometimes bullies will come at 5 in the well, guys like me will just come and leave them on there. And you need to be able to strip them off because we had elderly crowd that come in the morning that can't just leg press with 100-pound plates on the machine. Weak.
Yeah.
Get your life together.
Pathetic.
At that age, you haven't figured out how to leg press 400 pounds.
No shit.
You've had your whole life to prepare for this.
It's funny you mentioned how you like the energy of people around you, but then you also like the solitude of being alone. It's like the yin and yang of the typical high-level bodybuilder's personality. And I was expressing to a friend of mine the other day how I consider myself a social creature, right? Like I worked in the bar industry for 20 years. I've always been a kind of a storytelling talker type of guy. I'm on a podcast, it's in my nature to be social, but yet I have these fantasies of just moving to the bush and building a log cabin and just like disappearing, like, not needing to talk to anybody ever again. So it's like the constant internal battle of trying to balance that out. Is that just all of us?
Yes.
I'm there. Yes.
Yeah. I think so. I already know, like, because I tell Jasmine, I'm like, I'm ready for the public gym and have some fucking energy in the room, and I miss it. And as soon as we have that, I'm like, fuck, we need to get the public space, the private space back. I can't fucking stand these people. I need to go train by myself.
Yeah.
Well, I have noticed that Jordan, they've got the gym, and he still trains at his place all the time.
Yeah.
He's still back at Kojo, solo missing it. I don't see him training his public gym at all.
He did a few weeks when they opened. Like he showed face and he was there in that beginning phase, but now he's just back at Kojo's.
Yeah, he ain't doing that. He's like us, but he's advanced well past pretending that he wants to be around people, and he's just like, no.
Yeah.
What age does that happen? When you
For me,
pretending?
17.
So what's going on with your training, Justin? How are things going? I've told you that I tell most of my clients, almost all my clients, to follow you, and I say, watch how he executes and moves weights, and do a lot of that, and it saves me so much time.
Yeah, time, explanation.
Yeah, people start asking me about, hey, like, where do you put your feet on a leg press or something? I'm like, here, follow Justin Shier. Just do a lot of this.
Yeah. Any of those questions, just go there.
Yeah, and man, you're like how John Meadows built that YouTube database back in the day of every exercise that he had in his programs, and then he would put the links. He was way ahead of his time back when.
Yeah, he was.
Meadows would put the link. He'd build a program for somebody, and he'd put the link to Bulgarian split squat in the program so they could click on the YouTube video and see him doing them. You're like an online resource of exercise execution that is just completely free for other coaches to reference.
I actually hear that quite a bit, and I appreciate it. The only thing I don't want to do is like become annoying with it. I don't want to be the guy that's like, I almost resist training too perfectly because I don't want to be like this, like, because what happens is, and I've talked about this before, I get tagged in people training like these like really perfect slow negatives where they're doing a negative on a pull down and then they're checking their wristwatch to see how long they're going, and then they almost to the top, and then they get here, and then they pause for 1, 2, 3, and I'm thinking that's not what I do. You guys are really missing the point here. So I just always encourage people. I don't want you to move slow. I just want you to move well. You need to move controlled. Controlled and slow are not the same fucking things. You guys are misinterpreting like the control I have of the weight for like speed. Like I think the perception is it's a lot slower than it is because it's controlled.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the big disconnect there. So I appreciate it, but yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm misunderstood a bit.
Right. And you're still moving heavy weights.
Yeah.
Like there's still like a ton of like, that you got to come out of the, like on a T-bar row, you got to come out of the turnaround with a lot of power to get that moving.
Yeah.
You're not like two plating it, pausing and, doing all
if
sorts of things like that.
You got 6 plates on the T-bar, you better fucking yank that cocksucker.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very helpful. I've had a lot of clients, I tell them to reference your stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean." It's definitely something I do.
It's actually something that I've heard from even like top level pros, guys that come to me that are Olympians that are like, "Man, I just started kind of paying attention to your training and shifted how I trained a little bit, and I'm seeing like leaps and bounds of progress, and it's pretty flattering. It's pretty cool to hear that stuff because even at the latter stages of someone's career, you can still make a shift within your training that can make an impact. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why it matters is because you came up in a very short period of time relative to a lot of other guys, and your physique changed enormously over a relatively short period of time. And so that's why it's more relevant. I mean, if you'd looked the same for the last decade, it might not be as interesting to kind of ponder how you're moving weights. But hey, results, proof is in the pudding, and results matter. And
well, it definitely helps. I feel a little more confident, kind of putting things on display and encouraging these training methods because it has worked for me. And if it wasn't working, I wouldn't train that way.
Right.
I would not be stuck in some I wouldn't be married to something that wasn't producing results. I train like this because it works. And to be honest, I've always, like, Braun, you're the same way. I've always been Dusty, you as well. Just kind of like a strict low volume guy, high intensity, train to failure, 1 to 2 sets. And I got, for some reason, this off season, you talk about training, I just kind of got in this, like, maybe a little bit more would be a little bit better. So I started doing 3 sets on the leg press, and I started doing 3 sets of hack squats, and then I started doing, 3 sets with a drop set on this chest press, and then I realized after 3 months, I'm like, I haven't gained a fucking pound. And
No kidding.
And I feel like shit. My fucking everything hurts. Right? Like, fuck. So I had a conversation with Matt about it. He was like, "Hey, dude, what you've been doing has been working. Just don't stop. Like, if you've been gaining 8 to 10 pounds a year." Steadily, like, I'd be like, what am I? Fuck, maybe I can make it 9 to 11 pounds.
Sure,
by doing more.
Right.
But I think we all at some point we all second guess what we're doing, and want to just like. And to be honest, it was such a relief when I did 2 sets on the leg press. I was like, I'm not doing my 3rd set today.
Right, you feel like on holidays.
Yeah, I was like, fucking right on, dude. It felt great.
Yeah, it was worth doing to know, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Otherwise, you'd always wonder, like, hey, what would happen if I did more volume?
Yeah. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. I told a story about how I went to full on volume training for a few years.
Fuck.
And I noticed a couple of my body parts improved and then nothing else changed. And I was like, oh, I just needed a bit more volume on my arms.
Side delts.
Yeah. You know what I mean? There's just a couple things I needed to. And even then, was it actually more volume, or was it that I needed to work those muscles better? Because, when you're young and you're training a little too heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not, really targeting those muscles because you're training a little too heavy, So there's that too. You back off and do some volume training, and all of a sudden you're actually say it's side delts. You're actually working your side delts better because, you're not worried about using the 60s for side laterals. You're using the 40s, and you're doing a bunch of sets, and it's because of that. So there's a lot of context to it, Is there anything that you've changed in the gym, like exercise selection or anything? Because we're all really big. Dusty especially is real big on exercises that work for you, and I have a training partner, so I have a bit more variety. Whatever he feels like doing, I'll do. Pretty much. But I noticed you do a lot of reverse grip hammer pull down, a lot of chest supported T-bar, a lot of bent over double dumbbell. For back, for example. Is there anything that you have jettisoned or added or thought this doesn't work for me anymore? Do you ever come across that sort of stuff?
You know, I've done like a few things where like I used to get into like I'd band the leg press or reverse band the hack squat, or maybe I'd try to perfect the strength curve of like a Smith machine with like a band or something. And I fucking bailed on all that shit. That's stuff that I just don't even fucking think about for a goddamn second. Excuse my language. Scott's gonna have to beep it all out. I forgot you.
It's all right. We'll probably make it. YouTube's been easy on us, and you're passionate. I can tell. You swear when you get real passionate about stuff. You can't hold it against you.
I see so
Ron
many
does that
guys
too.
that get so like just so caught up in like the minutia of all this little itty bitty stuff that just has no bearing on what we're doing here. Just like, please God, don't worry about it. Is you're causing yourself more issues with even thinking about it than how much it could potentially help you. So I've definitely like just bailed on any of that stuff. And I'm not saying there isn't some merit, some value to it, but sometimes it's just like, just put the plates in the machine and let her rip. Right. You know?
Let her
rip.
I like that.
One thing I will say, this private space, I've got 20 pieces of equipment in there. That's all I've got. It's forced me to just like, I don't have much variety, and then you go, I don't need it.
Right.
You know, like this old school hammer strength press worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It still works right now. You know,
it is wild how when you have the variety, it almost throws you off. I had the same thing prior to that time period in 2020 where we all took a break. I had memberships at 5 different gyms, so I'd train legs at this gym and back at this gym, and I thought it mattered. Then I got the keys to a buddy's new gym that just had, it was relative, he had just bought it, so it didn't have a ton of stuff in it. And we trained there for months, and then when everything opened back up, we stayed training there because I was like, oh, I don't need any of that shit.
Yeah.
We just need to do these things still. And then as he's added more and more equipment, every time I go into town, I'm like, oh, it's really cool. He's like, you gonna use it? I'm like, no. But it's cool.
It's nice. I like to look at it.
Yeah.
Pretty.
I'm sure it's great for members, but you just find that sweet spot where it's, I had gotten away from putting weight on a bar on the ground and either rowing it or deadlifting it or RDLs, and it was all on machines and stuff. You find your way back, I'm like, oh, my back's growing again.
Yeah.
Huh.
Why did I do that?
Yeah. And
yeah.
It's funny. I have that. Why did I do that? Ever since my coma, I was training, but not with a logbook or anything. And then for whatever reason, I was like, I want to do a logbook again. And I lowered the volume like I always used to. And then I look in the mirror and I'm like, why did I stop doing this? I'm not even competitive at all anymore, but I look better immediately.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, why?
I had somebody, well, I made a post a few weeks back, maybe a week, I don't remember what it was, but I said something about, I had a shitty session. And it just happens. I had fucking poor sleep, something, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You go in the gym and it just didn't go well. But I decided to make a post and just kind of talk about how I handled it. I just pulled back. I switched some rep ranges. I'm no longer doing a set of 12. I'm doing a set of 15, whatever. And I had so many people going, the logbook's the devil, man. Get rid of that fucking logbook. Like logbooks are great for amateurs, but, at a certain level, and I'm looking at these amateurs telling me this, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys feel comfortable telling the Olympian that what he's doing is unnecessary. And I just have like strongly encouraging people like, hey, it's not for everybody, but I have found it works for me. So that's why I use it. People like, no, bad news. That thing's bad news. Okay.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I like that you walk in with what you're doing and what the goal is. It's real simple.
Yeah. And you know that, and really my the fucking post was explaining that even though sometimes it says these things in my logbook, sometimes I do have to adjust on the fly, and it's okay. Yep. It's fine. Yep. Sometimes I do have to switch things up. Like I pulled a plate off a machine, and I did it with less weight because I had to that day. It's totally fine. And then I can even write that down in my fucking notebook, and then next week I'm back to where I was, and all is right in the world.
Go wrong though. Don't do that book.
Yeah.
These books are bad.
Yeah.
I like mine because it's like a decoder ring because my handwriting is so bad. No one could ever use it against me in the court of law. What does this say? I have no idea. Only I know.
Well, I don't know about you guys. So like, I actually just do it in my phone. I do all in my notes app on my phone. But somebody goes, you know, you ought to remember what you're doing. You should remember how much weight you had on the bar. Okay, well, I mean, maybe I will remember, but like, I don't know about for you guys. So like, if I like lost a rep last week, let's say I got 11, but the week before I got 12, so we're at 11. Am I going to remember that I got 12 2 weeks ago? And that last week's 11 was actually that. Am I going to remember that? Am I going to remember like this little bit of nuance? Sometimes I log things and I'm like, I'll be like, got 12, last 3 reps sucked. Don't do that. Be better. I'm not going to remember that I was a little sloppy in those last 3 reps. Like, I'm able to annotate like little details and you know, like I communicate with myself a little bit. Like, hey, you were a pussy. Don't do that again. Just quit being a bitch. You know, like I have these conversations with myself where the next week I read it, I'm like, oh, I was really pissed after that set. I don't remember that. I just remember that I got 8. You know, so I think that kind of keeping a journal of how you were feeling in these sets and like, you know, and how things are trending. Like now I can go back 6 months ago and be like, oh shit, I guess I was doing, you know, 7 plates or 8 plates on the leg press for 12. I guess I put 2 plates on over the last 3 months on the leg press and I'm matching reps. You know,
I like your line. Be better. Be better.
Be better.
I had you'll love this.
I have that. That's my shit's littered with be better for sure.
The public gym, I'll have a little note that I put, and I'm like, you know, because I nickname everyone in the gym, you know. So like the other day, I just annihilated my previous number, but I had to write a note. Weird cop guy came and talked to me 5 minutes before this set, so I had extra gas.
Yep.
Weird top guy.
Yeah. That's another thing. Is like sometimes you go, I had a super long rest period. That's why.
Yeah.
So the next week when you get 14, when you get 12, and the last week you got 14, you go, what the fuck, man? I just lost 2 reps. Oh yeah, I fucking took 14 minutes between my set talking to fucking jump rope guy.
Yeah,
exactly. See, that's what I mean.
You know,
I make those notes. I'm like, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for weird cop guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. I was really happy to do that, but shouldn't have happened.
I have little moments now because, like, you know, I'm a little more freestyle in the gym now because, like, you know, I'm not competing and stuff. So I'm able to sort of like see the pluses. So like the other day I was training. I was by myself the other day. I was doing like a solo session, and I noticed that there was a cable off of a wheel, like it was jammed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's annoying. I can't train for another 45 minutes and allow that cable to be down.
Yeah.
So I ran in the back, got some Allen wrenches, came out, popped the wheel off, put the cable back in, popped it back in. So I had like a 5-minute break between sets. And all I justified it to myself was my next set will be really good.
Yeah.
My next set will be like, you know, it'll be like a real good, like, you know, best set of the last 3 months, you know?
That's one thing I don't miss is like fixing broken shit because people suck.
Yeah. It's something I have a hard time. Like there's things that can wait.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I could see something, go, oh, I'll take care of that after my workout. But if it's equipment down, oh man. And if it's something I can fix in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I was the same way.
Oh, I can't take that.
I know.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I've got like the fucking seat off of the machine. I'm like looking under. What the fuck is making that noise? It's squeaking. And you're like middle of a training session. And you got this whole thing taken apart. Yeah, I used to do that shit all the time. My training partner would be like, "Dude, fuck."
Can we just finish?
Move
I
along.
don't miss that. And you know how like, you know, people will just like bottom out the leg press when they're done with it, and it just scoots back this far and then this far and this far, and then at the end of the week, you're like, this thing migrated fucking 4 feet, dude. My leg press I put it here one time and it hasn't moved since.
Because you're the only one using it.
Yeah, because I just set it down. I don't dump this thing. You know, you get those people that bottom out the leg press every single rep, and they're just
slowly moving the whole thing.
Yeah. That's why we actually had a guy in our gym tip one of our leg presses over, so I bolted them all down.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to bolt everything down. Like there's certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's certain things for sure.
You know. Yeah. And then you're
Teeter
like,
totter.
The leg press
I
is one of
forgot.
those that it tends to migrate a lot, so that is a good bolter downer.
Yeah, the leg extension too. The prime plate loaded extension. Ours moves all over the floor. But I just put it back in the same spot every time I walk by it, because if I bolt it down, it's in this kind of traffic area where anytime we move any equipment, it kind of comes right through there.
Yep. Exactly.
So I know
So you
if I
gotta move
bolt
that.
that extension down, I'm gonna have to unbolt it a bunch of times. I just
Yep.
you know, these things
know
that go on in
exactly.
your head when you're a gym owner.
And if it's light, I don't mind it. I can move it around. Like a plate loaded
Yeah.
leg extension, I can move it around.
Yeah. So last time you were on, you had just gotten back from Italy, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So when was that?
April. It was like
April.
end of April. Yep.
Okay. So what's the next trip going to be? I got to ask you about some travel here.
So Jasmine and I, we've been like obsessing over Japan. We really want to take a trip to Japan.
Okay.
But that's kind of like a big one. Like that, everything I
big
hear from
one.
Japan is like, you better block out 3 weeks, because like 2 weeks isn't enough. So like, we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to do like the Japan trip right. So I don't know when we'll make that happen, but that's like the next big one that we want to do.
Did you watch a movie or something that triggered Japan, or is there an interest in like ancient feudal samurai culture or anything like that?
I did watch
The
Shogun.
anime, or okay, you watched Shogun. Okay,
Watch
we did
Shogun,
too.
which
Yeah.
I don't. That show is amazing. I don't know you thought, but it was incredible.
It was great. It was great.
So I'm not gonna lie, that was probably a bit of a motivator. But we've just always wanted to, and it's amazing. And like their whole culture is just like perfecting things. So like everybody will say like you'll even have like the best pizza over there, just because they ran out of shit to perfect on their own, and now they're just taking everybody else's culture and perfecting it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I want to see Tokyo. I just hear it's just everything I've seen, man. It's like it's similar, but it's also so freaking different. It's like a whole other world. I think you're right with the 3 weeks. I have a friend that just recently went, and she did stuff in the city, and then there's all sorts of stuff to see in the country too. So there's a lot to do there.
You could still go see some of those old paper houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that shit with like the rock gardens and the like that whole sort of old school traditional stuff up in the mountains. And I've been to Japan once for a very short period of time, because I was just on like I just had like a 24-hour layover, so I just saw a bit of Osaka, but I was just and that was the very beginning of my sort of when I was 19 and I left home to go backpacking. And so I was in such culture shock that I barely absorbed anything. I was just completely blown away. Like the whole 24 hours I was laid over in Osaka, I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? Yeah. And I got to go back one day, and now I'm getting invited to gyms there. There's a gym on Instagram.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
It's invited me, and it looks just completely wild and out of this world. It's like old 80s equipment, and it's just the way it's set up is just crazy. There's all these like posters of Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, but they're all covered in Japanese writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like, when you see the movie posters and they're all Japanese writing and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
I'd love to go back, man. It's intense.
Some of the gyms, I can't remember what country, if it's Japan or it might have been Korea, that I think it was Korea. It was one of our listeners told me he had a son that went there, and it was really weird, the gym culture there, where you had to like check out dumbbells. So like if you wanted the 25s, they had an attendant there, and you would go and you'd say, hey, I'd like the 25-pound dumbbells, and you'd sign something, and you'd take the 25s and go out to your bench.
No shit.
And when you're done with the 25s, you'd bring them back. Yeah, it was very different from what I had heard, but I don't think that was Japan. It sounds like Japan's more like Americanized as far as gyms go, huh?
Yeah. Well, this one dude tagged me in a video the other day because he was in Japan, and he tagged me, and I said, check this place out. And the guy in the video was like, yeah, this gym allowed tattoos. They didn't make me cover up.
Oh, yeah. I've seen
Most gyms don't allow tattoos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to at least be able to cover them up.
Yeah, you have to be able to cover them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's the yakuza thing, right? You know?
Oh,
That's still like a huge part of things over there. So
Dusty's
if anyone
not
out there
invited
knows,
anywhere, then
At all.
Yeah.
I'm wearing gloves in the gym. I'm going to need Master's gloves. I'm going to need
Master's
Master's
gloves.
gardening gloves.
Master's gardening gloves.
come in handy.
There you go.
I knew I was going to need those one day.
Or get those samurai gloves with like the armor on the fingers, the thick leather back on them. Yeah, you can train in those.
Perfect. Good grip for deadlifting. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Great
the
fashion.
food, obviously, like, you can eat
The
whatever
food-
you want there.
Yeah,
but
the
like,
food culture is insane out there, and it just seems like
there's some stuff they eat there that's a little bit too. Oh man, I don't know if you know what I mean. I don't want
Well,
anybody taking me on a food tour without my permission.
Well, you don't even put like mustard on a burger. Like you're
That's
plain
the
as
point.
He
it
thought he
gets.
was on a food tour because I took him to a
but
restaurant in
we're eating
Greenville.
live octopus today, and we're gonna, I don't know what they're eating.
Lettuce and tomato on a burger is like fucking
Yeah.
wild for Ron.
Yeah.
We actually, when Ron came here a couple of weeks ago, Nikki goes, "Where are we going to take him?" I'm like, "I don't know. McDonald's? I don't know where we can feed Ron."
I've given
the one
people
place
the
we went
wrong
to
impression.
had sandwiches, and I was like, "I don't know if he's going to get nervous if they're in the building. I don't know." There's a sandwich on that other chair. Get me out of here. I got
Chicken
french
place
fries.
was great.
Have you always been like that, Ron? Like when you were a kid, were you a pain in the ass? Were you a very picky eater?
Yes, as an adult.
I bet you were. I bet he was a fucking nightmare.
Were you always like that, Ron? Like, have you always been a pain in the ass?
No, I've always
That was
been.
amazing.
I've always tried to not annoy people, but I've always been a picky eater. But I also tried to not annoy.
Failed miserably.
And I also never want to
constantly
offend
do
a
it.
host, right? I never want to offend a host. So there's always like, I'm good about it. I'm not one of those, I'm not like some of the early stage fitness people you have now that can't even.
Oh, I mean, sometimes
Some of
I'll send like a client a plan. They're like, oh, I hate rice. Man, I just don't like beef, and oatmeal's disgusting, and olive oil, ugh, gross. Like, what do you fucking eat, and how do you plan on building muscle? Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, is there a carb choice we could have other than potatoes, oatmeal, rice, or a bagel? Oh God, I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah,
Just dextrose powder. Where's you put some flour down and eat that.
Flour.
Fuck, come on.
That's my favorite. One of my favorite acetoisms. He'll send me like little updates that he gets with clients, and he had a guy send him a long breakdown. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get this win, and he goes into all this detail. And Chris goes, "Okay." Then he sends the diet. First thing, is there any way you could do something other than potatoes? I just don't really like them. Chris sends back. So you do anything except eat potatoes?
Yeah. I know what these guys are getting at. They're thinking, can I just, I mean, I've been doing Pop-Tarts every morning, and it's been working for me. Can we just go back to the Pop-Tarts? Yeah.
Chris has been sending me the odd new rule when he gets annoyed.
Oh, I love them.
New rule. He sent me one the other day. He was like, I don't necessarily care if your wife thinks you're flat. Because I got these guys, they send me pictures, and I'm like, you look great. And they're like, oh, the wife says I'm really flat this morning.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, well, I'm looking at the photos myself. I'm like, you look great.
You hired
Do
me.
we blame Samson for that?
Well, no, I'm thinking of who his clients are. Yeah,
That's the magic is the Samson's wife. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how
He
he
was
grew so
nothing
much
before
over
her.
these years.
Exactly. She was making sure the coaches were doing
She
it right.
never let him get flat once.
Right, never let him get flat once.
Oh,
What's your
great.
take on the O this year, Justin? What are you prepared to say about the O this year? What do you
Man
think?
up, don't
what do
be
you
a
think's
pussy.
coming?
Top
I'm
five.
prepared to say that I think people need to shut the fuck up and talk about how other eras are better than this era of bodybuilding. I'll say that. Because when you look at the guys that are going to be in the top 5, you've got Derek, Hottie, Nick, Samson, Andrew. You're like, look how fucking incredible these bodybuilders are. So I don't want to hear about how this era of bodybuilding isn't good, or like the I think it was even all respect to Lee Haney, but Lee Haney was like, it's the mutant era and these guys don't have symmetry, and I'm like, go to a show.
Yeah.
These guys, like,
You got Nick, you got Hunter, you got like these incredible, just
Dude.
yeah, like
it's a very, very good era of bodybuilding. So I'll say that off the
Absolutely.
bat. And I'll also say while everyone's kind of making their top 5 predictions, you go, yeah, maybe I have this guy in 5th, but it's like, but that guy could win too.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like Nick could be in 5th, and it'd be like, that's respectable. He got beat by Andrew, Jackton, and Samson, and Hot. Like, these guys are fucking incredible. Or he could win. He genuinely could.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's how close all these guys are.
Yeah, one of the things about this era is that exact fact. Like, if you look at the Phil Heath era, there was Phil.
Yeah.
There was Kai, who I never thought beat Phil really ever. It was like he was definitely the contender, but I still thought Phil beat him clearly each time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there was like 3rd place, which was like, I don't remember who was 3rd most of the years that Phil won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's for a reason. That's because Phil was so far ahead of everyone else. And then you look at Jay. You look at Jay winning, and Jay was so big compared to everyone. Remember how big Jay was still bigger than everyone else at the time.
Yep.
You know, and then Ronnie, like that whole thing was Ronnie, and then Jay, and then like who was in 3rd? Well, like a different person every year, and no one really remembers the order, and like that sort of thing. But this is different. This is different. This is who's going to be on that day. You got 2 Mr. Olympias in the top 2 last year. With what I mean, with Hottie there battling it out, and it's a really crazy. Like, it's possible that Hunter winds up in the top. Like, imagine if Hunter came in the very best we've ever seen him, harder than ever. Where does he land if a few guys are maybe not at their very best?
Yeah.
Does he wind up in the top 3? Like,
maybe.
It's crazy.
I think Hunter, dude, I mean, I don't think anybody gets shit on the way Hunter gets shit on. People.
Nobody does. It's unbelievable.
It's unfucking believable. And people will say things like, he won't even crack the top 5. Oh, what is he going to be 6th? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
What, is that an insult?
That's a terrible insult, by the way.
Yeah.
And also, the guy was 4th place. His highest 4th place. Hunter's an incredible bodybuilder. And, we all know Hunter. He is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's such a fucking good kid. He's such a nice guy. So I get really upset when people talk shit about Hunter, because it's just, for one, people don't understand bodybuilding, and 2 is just like, this kid, he's done nothing to deserve the wrath that is thrown upon him by the masses.
And I love his physique.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Hunter's super good. Yeah.
I sort of have I think it's maybe because like I struggled with it being taller, but I sort of have a thing for physiques that are just a little bit, and I mean this as a compliment, but a little bit limb dominant.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Hunter's arms are really big.
Yeah.
His legs.
And his legs are really big.
Yeah.
And they're not too big for his body. Everything's very put together nicely. But they're on the bigger end of the range. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has that fucking ridiculous limb look to him when he's just walking around.
Yeah.
And it sort of reminds me of how Lee Priest looked, but on a bigger frame.
I could see that.
And more balanced. Like, you know what I mean? But I love those physiques, man. They're just so cartoonish to me. I enjoy seeing them on stage. I envy how they look just walking around,
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, I'm a big fan, man. I'm a big fan. And the whole, like, connection to Lee, too, like Lee, I've got a soft spot for Lee. He was the first pro I ever met, first pro I ever saw pose. He really had a huge effect on me. And, and I just think that's a fascinating story of how that's all come together for both of them.
I've got something for you guys. I want to see if I can do a screen share here. I was looking at a new YouTube page called Project Bodybuilding. Not the old Project Bodybuilding, Ron. It's a new one. And check this out. This guy had a side-by-side of, hold on a second, where's Shier? We're trying to work with new technology here. Share screen.
Careful.
Right?
That share screen's a ballsy move, as you know. We do not do that from my computer ever.
Oh, what should I do? I'm having an issue. I guess I can't drag it in. I'll work on it in the background as you guys talk. Maybe I'll be able to bring it back up.
All
later.
that build up.
I know. I know. We're on new software, guys. I apologize.
I was going to say that, it's interesting. This is the first year. Well, last year was good, but this year I'm really excited for the Olympia. There's a lot going on that makes it exciting. The 212 is very, very exciting to see what's going to happen. I'm really, really excited to see 𝗫𝘳. I've never seen her angry before, which I enjoy. I like that side of her. And then obviously the Open. But that said, we've seen everybody and we've seen their huge jumps. Hunter, Derek, 𝗫𝘂𝘁, and how big they are. And it makes me realize how good we had it back in the day when Ronnie walked out in 2003 and I almost fell out of my chair because I had no idea what had happened over the year. When Jay did the same in 2009, and it was a shock to see the improvement. Whereas this year, when Derek walks out looking the way I know Derek looks now, I'm going to go, wow, he really did do that thing I saw he did on the internet 4 months ago.
Yeah.
It loses that, like, bam. I mean, it was shocking back in the day when these guys would walk out and you hadn't seen them in a year. And they had just put their head down and grinded. And you're like, that is what an elite athlete can do with perfect execution in a year.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's some of the romance to the old era for certain people is just the shock value of when they did see the physique. That's what they remember, And oh yeah, okay.
Oh, look at you!
Wow!
Oh, you guys got it. All right.
Look at you!
Yeah, I can't blow it up though, so we're gonna have to. Can you see that?
Yeah, well,
that
it was blown up. It was blown up.
Blow it up a little more. Blow it up a little.
I either got a lot. We can either get a lot or a little. Apparently, I can't.
They don't need heads. We know who they are. Hunter's the darker one.
Yeah.
I'll blow them up in post. How about that?
All right, Dad.
So him and Andrew.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was at Project Bodybuilding YouTube page, and it was comparing these two guys together. I wanted to see what you guys thought, because these are two real recent pictures, Italy and what was it, Texas. So this is, really not too far out either, right?
No.
The only problem I have with all those comparisons that people don't understand is it's all different when you're standing next to someone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
like when you put
and
you put the guys, because they are slightly distorted. Hunter is not an inch and a half shorter than Andrew like he is in these photos.
No, about a full foot.
So it does change a ton.
Yeah.
I like the excitement of it, but I'm more amped to see how it really does come to life, because like we've discussed, and I'd love to hear what you think, Justin, is like how interesting is it that the two of the possible top fives are over 6 feet, and how does that shuffle the look of the shorter guys?
Well, it can definitely go one of two ways, where and I mean this with all respect, because these are two of the best bodybuilders on the planet, but neither of them have been known for having stellar conditioning.
Yep.
So you can have these two guys who have incredible structure, the best silhouettes of bodybuilding, no question, next to Nick, Derek, 𝗫𝘁𝘁𝘁, who are known for stellar conditioning.
Peeled.
Who are compact, fucking peeled, all the muscle in the world. So it's either going to make them make that stature and that disparity within their structures highlighted, or it's going to highlight their lack of conditioning. So you can either make them look good or make them look soft.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like I'm being rude, but you got these fucking guys like 𝗫𝘁𝘁𝘁, this Iranian guy who just it's like a once in a generation type of conditioning. That's not normal conditioning, and he doesn't have bad structure. He's good structure.
Yeah.
All the muscle in the world. So it's going to be a really competitive lineup. And I feel like this is like the first year where you go, the reigning champ. You could see him nobody would be surprised if 𝗫𝘁𝘁𝘁 won. And then if Samson squeezed into second, nobody would be surprised. And then if, he could be third, he could be fourth. And that's
Yeah,
not
it's
like
the
an
first time
insult,
you could
it's
say
just
that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's totally possible, you know. But then there's also the huge possibility he comes in, blows the doors off, he's much improved, he wins again. So I think it's kind of
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
equally possible.
I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to come down to who's the crispest, like who's the most crispy on stage. I think that these guys, with the amount of muscle they all carry and all the strengths and weaknesses they may or may not have, I think that it's going to be who's the most striated. You know, last year Derek had that back shot that was just so ridiculous. It was even more striated than Hottie's back shot. And then from the front, Hottie had that most muscular and the ab thigh that were just so ridiculous and striated that no one else. So it was like the top two most detailed guys were the top two.
Right.
And I think that that's what it's going to come down to again. And, you know, I agree with what you say about, you know, Samson. To me, seeing him standing in a front relaxed, he's got that look, man. He's got that dominant Mr. Olympia stance. Kind of reminds me of how Dorian looked walking around, you know, carries that look. But I think that next level of crispness has to be there in some of those shots to win a show like this against those guys. So it's going to come down to conditioning. So that's, to me, the challenge for guys like Andrew and Samson against last year's top two.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the likelihood is very, very high that Hottie and Derek will still be the top two this year. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. So I had a question from a fan actually that worked out good for this conversation. It's, where do you guys see the 212 division going, considering all the best 212 guys leave and become the best open guys?
Yours, Justin?
Oh, you're the one that took a deep breath. I was waiting to hear from you.
Oh,
He
was
took
gonna
that and he
start
said, "I
talking.
don't want to do it."
I think that technically, like from a financial standpoint, I think the 212 is the weakest division.
Yep.
Just from, you know, like what sells tickets. It's a fantastic division as an add-on. People love it, but it's not the draw that Classic is. You know, like if you talk to all the young guys, they're all into Classic, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's like the bodybuilding, the real hardcore bodybuilding fans appreciate 212 because we love the fact that those physiques have somewhere to go and be really showcased to their maximum. But it's not the type of thing, like, I'm just going by what I hear. I got kids join up at the gym and they say to me, you know, I want to look like 𝗕𝘁, or I want to look like 𝗕𝘁𝘀𝘆𝗆, or I want to, you know, that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
The only guys that mention the 212 are the hardcore bodybuilding fans that are also talking about Hottie and Derek and Samson and Nick Walker. And it's those guys that also are fans of 𝗕𝘁𝗆𝘆𝗆𝘁, that sort of thing. So I see it as an add-on to the open bodybuilding. You know, and then also too, just as a show promoter, we've got experience with the 212 too, and like we love that division, and we've really enjoyed putting it on. But you know, talking to other promoters and stuff, it's not the ticket generator that Classic is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it can survive that, that's the main test for the division. You know, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. Like, we can love the bodybuilders, we can love seeing 𝗕𝘁𝗆𝗆𝘆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆 division survive the finances of show promotion. So,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same exact way, but I also feel like if the division were to go away, the top guys would still be just fine. The cream always
Right.
rises to the top. You know, we've already seen Sean be in the mix. He was, you know, 5th place at the Arnold behind, you know, fucking
compared to
Nick
Randy,
and-
remember he was
Yeah,
side by
compared to
side
Randy.
with
That
Randy.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
wild.
You know,
wild.
winning open pro shows. We all know Keon would fare just fine in the open
Yep.
Olympia, you know. So it's it's kind of a tough thing because I think I do like it, and I like seeing these guys have their own platform, their own stage, and especially because you see some of these guys that are just like sucking down to 212 and barely fucking making it, and are just like the conditioning's just out of this fucking world because they had to just fight and push to get into it. So I think it definitely brings like a different level of conditioning. And you see that same thing within classic with guys with weight caps. So it's like when you have guys that are like, you have to be down 10 more pounds before you can even be allowed to get on stage. Then you see these guys that are just bringing crazy conditioning. So I enjoy that aspect. But yeah, as far as generating sales, it's tough, And I wonder, on that note, what do you guys think? Because obviously, classic it's growing, and it is it's a very popular division. But what happens to that class when Chris is no longer involved?
Yeah, it's very game changing. I mean, obviously these other guys are huge, but not. I mean, Chris is the biggest thing in all of bodybuilding. Like, I don't know if I told you this, Justin, or if you heard it on the show before, but we were out of town, and I don't know what happened. There was a post or something, and Chris commented on one of my posts, and so I come back to town and I go to the gym, and there's a kid. He's like, Chris Bumstead? I was like, yeah. And he goes, he follows you on Instagram. I was like, yes. And that's my whole claim to fame. I am now famous for knowing.
Because you know
Dude, it's shot. He knows my name kind of now. He's like the old guy with the beard. He knows Chris Bumstead. No idea my name actually. But I do think it'll be interesting to see. And I also love the evolution that takes place though, because like you just said, Ron, classic drives, but at the end of the day, we all go to the circus to see the freaks. Yeah. And that's the open, and when you're seeing these top guys, I almost feel like, even Keon, it's like, I love what you're bringing. I know there's plenty of room, but I married an accountant, and there's more money if you go to the open. Yeah. So I would move on. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see him in open. Go in there, and I know he has room, so he's not holding back. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we also know that as a smaller man, the only way to make it would be to be sliced out of your head. Like Derek and Hadi didn't come to the open and bring in just ungodly size that was fat. They brought concrete. Yeah. They showed up with concrete on their body, and we're like, oh, yeah, that's big enough.
So did William. Like all the 212 guys that come just bring crazy conditioning. So
I gotta touch on something that we haven't mentioned on the show, and I've said this to, like, a lot of people know this, but I've said this to a few people, and they're like, "What?" So we all saw that Bumstead made the announcement that he's now a part owner of Gymshark, right?
I was gonna mention this because
we all saw this, right? Yeah. So we all saw him unzip his shirt, Daddy's home, drop the mic. Yeah. He's a part, and they announced he's a part owner of Gymshark. Most people don't realize that Gymshark is a $1.5 billion company.
Yeah, dude.
1.5.
People were like,
B.
People were like, so that was underwhelming.
Let's say he has. Yeah, no. What does he have? No. Let's say he has 3%. 3% is $45 million of value.
Just in that.
Yeah. So who knows what he has as an owner? Is it 1%? Is it 10%? Yeah. The owner of Gymshark sold 20% of it, I think, to like an investment firm a few years ago for some insane amount because they valued it at 1.4 at the time billion.
Yeah.
Right. He sold 20% of it to an investment firm, and he still owns like most of it. And now Bumstead has some. I don't know how much. But if it's 3%, which is common for like those types of deals, like you come on board, we'll give you 3%, that's $45 million of value. So I just want to make sure everyone realizes that was not an underwhelming announcement. People were like, oh yeah, he's part owner of Gymshark. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
I saw it. I saw people were like scoffing at it. They're like, oh, nice, whoopee. Like, no. It's a fucking gigantic move for him. It's fucking incredible. Like when I saw that, I was like,
"That's yacht money."
Yeah, dude. You have no idea. And it was
Yeah,
brilliant,
and you
'cause,
know
I mean,
what?
like,
There's and yeah,
the amount of eyes that he generated on that post, like just with like the countdown, and people listen.
Oh, yeah.
If he announced his retirement, that would have been underwhelming. We all know he's going to retire.
yeah.
You know, in his last year competing, be like, yep, I could see that. Yeah,
And you know what the next move is? I guarantee it. Gymshark's going to go public.
yes, right.
And then that 45 million, let's say if he has 3%, I'm just making up a number. That 45 million, when they go public, that goes to 450 million
Yeah.
in a day. Because the stock price goes boop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game
Good
over.
times.
Fuck.
Yeah. You
Well,
win.
thankfully, because he was
Yeah.
doing so poorly before, I'm just glad he can finally pay his bills.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
He's your dad now. So.
I saw
He
that
needs
and I
it.
was like, oh shit.
It's funny. I saw the same thing, and I was going to mention that because I was just astonished at the amount of like comments and discussions about how it was underwhelming and like, oh my god, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, dude, this is incredible.
Yeah. People don't realize what that company does for what that company
So
is
I
valued at.
actually looked into it. So the owner is worth like 1.4 billion, but I think the company itself is like 700 million. And I could have my numbers wrong there, but I know the owner was worth 1.5 billion. So I just looked into that, and
You were like, I need to know.
I did. I was like, this is fucking nuts. I need to know.
So this is what I got when I Googled. It says Ben Francis, the founder and CEO of the England-based sportswear brand, sold 21% to a private equity firm, General Atlantic, in August of 2020. And so this is in 2020. In a deal that valued the company at 1.45 billion. He currently still owns 70%.
Wow.
So he still owns 70% of 1.45 billion. So that's like a billion?
Yeah.
But those are also 4 years ago numbers, and we all know that
Yeah.
Gymshark has been going that
Oh
way.
my god. I mean, imagine how many of those 𝗕𝘁'𝘀𝘆𝗀𝗃 shirts they're gonna sell. Did you guys see that?
They're all
It said-
gone.
Oh my
it
god.
They're
says,
gone.
They printed 475,000 of them.
It says,
Sold them all.
as of 2023, Ben Francis has a net worth of 1.3 billion. Him personally,
God, at 30 years old.
yeah, 30
That's
years old.
wild.
So yeah, that's not that 𝗕𝘁'𝗀𝘆𝗀𝗶 move, man. It's just awesome.
Incredible. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
You know,
Good for him.
Good old Canadian kid. You know, I'm just hoping for one day get 3% of Mutant.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, shit. You know what I mean? I got a few questions for you, Justin. Do we have any questions
Yeah.
for Justin on your end, guys?
You
I
got
have
anything?
some, but
You got
just
something, Dusty?
fire away. 'Cause I got to slide. If I open this up, what's going to happen? I'm just going to disappear for a second, Scott.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
used
I
blackout
have
for
no
a second.
idea. We'll find out.
We're about to find out. Here we go.
Oh no.
What happened?
We still hear you.
No.
We just don't see you.
Wait,
might
so
have-
I'm better. So I'm better looking now.
You're better
this
looking now.
is fantastic. This is fantastic, Scott. I'm going to send you these questions since I can't see them,
Okay, that sounds good.
and then that
Well-
way you can use them up here.
Okay. Now, we
I
might have
that.
asked you some of these already because you've been on so many times. So
Yeah,
we might have
get a bit
asked you
get a
some.
bit repetitive as a host.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
but
after
also
17 appearances, what are we going to do here?
but also too, your answers change every time. They might be a little bit different.
It's because I'm full of shit and I'm always making things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Always
new
lying.
answer.
And now I didn't even ask these. These came from someone else.
Me
But
too.
I have two BMX questions, and they're not even
Awesome.
from me.
Ah,
That's interesting.
What's your favorite BMX memory?
I know his least favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those for sure.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind as soon as you said that, there's a skate park in Lincoln City. It's like a coast town in Oregon, and you're not allowed to ride BMX there. So it's a hardcore skateboard only, and the skaters there are kind of gnarly. It's like Burnside in Portland. It's the same way. You got to go in the morning before the drunk skateboarders show up and fucking kick you out. So we took this coast trip and we went up and with my brother, like 4 of my closest friends, we just piled into my brother's pickup, made like a bed in the back of his truck, and like 3 of us were in the back with all our bikes, and just one of those road trips, you know. And we went and hit all these coastal parks, got to Lincoln City, and we stayed the night in the bowl of the skate park. And at sunrise, we like rode the skate park for 2 hours until skateboarders showed up and kicked us out. And I just remember that like being just one of those trips that, man, just like I was so lucky to have that group of friends and to have that experience and to just have the camaraderie with my brother and my like 3 closest friends. And I just think very fondly back on those days. And that's the first thing that comes to mind when you mention that.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
I got
It kind of
questions.
reminds me of like the very early days of snowboarding where some mountains wouldn't allow snowboards.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
skiers would be
Yeah.
like, get out of here. That sort of
Yeah.
reminds me of that.
Yeah,
I
it
always
used
feel
to
like it's
be-
the skaters that are getting, like discriminated against. But I'm realizing within this community, it goes a step further. So the
Yeah.
bikers are even on a lower totem pole than the skaters.
Yes.
huh?
So we have pegs on our bikes, and like they'd always yell at us, get you and your destruction pipes out of here. They'd be worried that we'd be messing up the coping with our pegs, and they weren't a fan of the BMX bikes. And I think it's still pretty common, but like, let's say 2 out of 10 skate parks in the U.S. are skateboard only, so bikes aren't even allowed.
Huh.
It's pretty,
Now you slept
pretty
in the
common.
bowl. That's my next question. You slept in.
Yeah,
you literally
yeah.
slept in the park, in the
Yeah,
the bowl.
Sleeping bags, went and like slept in the bowl. Like we were just ratty kids who just were riding BMX. We didn't give a shit. We were, spent a week traveling, didn't shower the whole time, and just rode bikes and got high and yeah. So we slept in the bowl of the skate park as soon as the sun was up, and I love it. It's so fun.
Would you have imagined your life would be where it is today? Because usually, like at that age, you're not really thinking about the future. If you're traveling around the country skating or riding bikes and not showering, like you're not, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're thinking deeply about the future. Would you have pictured this?
No, we were surviving on Taco Bell and Mountain Dew, and you didn't give a shit about anything but like riding. Ron, you're like an action sports guy, so you came up riding bikes, you were skiing, so like that the action sports world and the fitness and bodybuilding, that's like the anti-culture. Those things do not mesh. So like when I was riding BMX, if I saw like a bodybuilder, I'd fuck. Like that's just like that's how it was. Especially if I saw them in thongs, oiled up on stage. Like never in a million fucking years did I think that that's what I'd be doing.
It's a
Yeah. Yeah. But there is still, I guess from my perspective, my time when I was young on the BMX, when I was like freestyling back in the early days, and then my time as a bodybuilder, both of those were still in their own way counterculture.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might not have meshed together, but they were both still outlaw, sort of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, especially because you were looking up to guys like Dorian who were like in the dungeon and like training solo, hardcore, the shadow. So
and everybody back then was buying their gear off some guy in an alley. There's like this little bit of outlaw. You know what I mean? Like,
the steroids made it cool for sure.
We didn't have like mail order companies delivering it right to our house.
Yeah.
Legally through some online prescription thing we finagled from some doctor.
Yeah. I just remember being in school and like
I got one more here.
The meatheads that were training and working out. I just despised those guys. Like, the kids on the wrestling team and the football team. I just I could not have been less compatible with anybody in my life than like those guys. And like I look now, I'm like, I look at wrestlers. I'm a huge fan of wrestling. Like. And sports, like incredible, and I know that these guys were training and going to like football practice and training hard and like bench pressing, like it's awesome. But like back then, nah. I wanted to take a bong hit and go to the skate park. That was like, that was my day. I want to get high and go ride my bike.
What's your favorite lesson from BMX?
Well, I would say learning like delayed gratification. I think I might have mentioned this before on a podcast, but like I tried to learn a tail whip like over a jump. 5 years. And I'm not joking. I would like almost every single time I'd ride my bike 5-6 times a week, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to try this for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. I'm going to throw like 30 tail whips and see if I can get this. 5 years later, I got one. You know, like trying to do bar spins, trying to learn a bar spin over a jump. Fucking, that was a decade. I mean, from 17 to 25 years old, I mean, like, I'm like, God, will I ever figure this out? And then it just clicks. You know?
Right.
So that, I invested a lot of time learning things. And Ron, you know, like, how long did it take you to learn how to do like a hang five or something, or these certain tricks that you just like, just beat your head against the wall for months, years? You know, shinners, like bloody shins. You're racking your shins on your knee on your stem, and like, how many times did you go home with like bruised palms from going over the handlebars? Like, fuck. You know, so
there's always some guy that you meet that's like, yeah, those were hard. I figured them out in an afternoon though.
Yep. Yeah. Infuriating. I mean, there used to be kids that would just like come to the skate park and like pick up a bike and like do a bar spin out of the quarter pipe, just flat out bar spin. Go, I've been trying to do that for years. And this kid this autistic kid just did it first try. You know?
I think of that now when I see all these young kids. Like, I'll watch a video of some 8-year-old doing stuff, and I'm like, what? How?
Yeah, I know.
And who are your parents letting you do this?
So I think that was incredibly valuable. And
Absolutely.
just also just like, you know, the sweat equity, just like putting in lots of effort towards something. You know, riding BMX at like a high level, and I wasn't like a good pro or anything, but I was pretty good at riding bikes. It takes a lot of work to get there. It's hard, very hard.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think one of the things that I get out of it is enjoying, like, I know they say enjoy the process, but you know, like I remember when I first started, you know, if I went out and rode for an hour and I didn't really pull anything, I would think, oh, that was a shit session.
Yeah.
And then when you ride with higher level guys that are doing higher level stuff, they'll ride for 2 hours and not pull anything because they're working on hard stuff. And they'll say, oh, that was an awesome session.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him, like, you didn't pull anything and you think it was an awesome session. Like, I'm just thinking here, and they're like, yeah, but it's all about the little chips. Like, I rolled that one thing for another second longer than I had before. Even though I didn't pull it, I rolled it for another second, and I felt a spot where I was in the spot, and I was like, there it is, and then it was out. Yeah. And it's just trying to spend as much time in that green zone. There it is. And you're just trying to log time in that spot, and then next thing you know, you roll it for 10 seconds, and then they have it.
Yep.
And it's just all that looking at the positives, and now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to think like that, you know. So, but yeah, that's the delayed gratification, man.
Yeah, and then sometimes something just clicks, and then you're like, how did I not figure this out sooner? Because it's just becomes second nature so fast, you know.
Right.
All right, we got some of the Dusty's questions over here.
Yep.
How about being a competitive pro and managing and growing a coaching business?
Well, I think we've all kind of done that. I mean, Scott, you're not a pro, but you also were competitive, and
Absolutely.
You were a coach. You know, I mean, to be honest, it's not that hard. If I'm being honest,
It takes 9 minutes a day to work with these guys.
Yeah, I've done
9 minutes a week.
9 minutes a week.
That's
That's right.
quote. 9 minutes a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've managed much more difficult things than that, so I don't really have much to say. I think it's just like, you know, be communicative and give responses and make sure your clients are taken care of, and then take care of your own shit. It's kind of simple.
I had Tommy answer me, throw all these questions, so we've got some stuff that wouldn't have come from us. What else do you have?
He says, all right, how about this one? How do you balance business and bodybuilding?
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, and I think it's just a matter of removing your ego and being able to delegate and not being afraid to, like, in the early stages of business, there used to be a lot of things that I would say, I can do this. Like, no, I got this. You know, I have to do it. And then you know what ends up happening? You go, you got a guy who's willing to help, and you go, just don't worry, I'll get to it. And then 3-4 days goes by and you don't get to it. And then by the time you get to it, it's too late and you fucked up and you're like, I should just have this guy do it. So just learning to let go and investing in people and allowing someone to be the man, like give someone the opportunity to be the man. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there who have a lot more skill than you'd think. And there's also dumbasses, so you got to be mindful of that, because I've hired some dummies and you go, I got to get rid of this guy. He's fucking useless. You know, so there's two sides to that. But, you know, sometimes you don't find out whether or not somebody's, valuable to the team if you don't give them the opportunity. You know, and within my cannabis business, my brother's my business partner, and luckily he handles a lot of he's boots on the ground, he's at my farm, and then I handle like a lot of the clerical stuff, a lot of the red tape, a lot of the compliance stuff with the state, and dealing with our accountants and, you know, the money stuff. So we have our own roles, and we've kind of over the years have figured that out. And that was kind of tough at first, because a lot of times it's like, hey man, I'm 4 weeks out and I'm not at the farm. My brother would, you know, there would be like this level of resentment, and it just had to be, we just had to kind of understand that we both play different roles, and kind of clearly define those, and hold up your end of the agreement, and make sure that everyone's comfortable and confident with what we're doing. And it just takes some figuring out. You know, it's not easy, and there's no guidebook. You don't go, okay, so how do I do this? And it's like, you know, you just gotta
page 26.
Yeah, you know, you just gotta figure it out, and you know, communication's paramount. You just gotta get on the phone and have those phone calls, and, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty when you need to as well.
Have you ever had a chance to talk to 𝗜𝘁'𝘀𝘁 about the weed business?
You know, I know I think he does like hash or something.
I know he has like edibles and gummies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know he's in the extract side of things. But I haven't had a conversation with him.
Yeah, that would be a fun conversation. He's in Illinois. He's in Chicago, and then I think his business is here out of Michigan.
Okay.
I got to tell you guys a story that happened the other day. So I had my buddy Rob over. It was his birthday, so we had a little just dinner at our house, and he's the guy I got into smoking cigars with originally, and he's gotten real close with our oldest daughter, so she always looks forward to when he comes over. So we have dinner. We're like, all right, we're gonna go outside and have some cigars. So I always bring chocolates when you smoke cigars. And the reason is because if you get a little bit of a smoke high and feel a little off, if you just eat a little sugar, it'll knock it out immediately. And so we just always bring them, no big deal. And they also just taste awesome, so who cares? And our daughter's sitting outside, and I had the bag, and I go, hey, do you want a chocolate? And she kind of looks at me with this funny look, and she laughs, and she goes, isn't that those weed chocolates you guys have? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, I know those have weed in them. I was like, where did you come up with this? She goes, they always come out at night, and you always put them in a little plastic bag, and then you leave the house with them. And I'm like, well, I can't bring the whole jar. They came from Costco. she had this whole story in her head that we were trying to trick her into taking an edible. I'm like, I'm not going to convince you to take an edible.
How old is she?
Just turned 18. Yeah, I love the backstory though. Like, she created it and it made sense. I was like, well, I guess if you didn't know why I would have them, it does make sense.
I watch you smuggle these things in a fucking Ziploc, Dusty.
Yeah,
I know
it's exactly what it was too. Because we'll usually take just a couple when I go to the cigar bar. I'll throw them in a Ziploc and then walk out the door, and I'm like, this girl's been watching this the whole time with this storyline in the back of her head.
Yeah.
Oh, there go my parents with their edibles out to a bar.
A good way to keep her from eating your chocolates.
Yeah.
A
lot of weed. You don't want these.
Or a good way for them to all be gone when I come home and their friends all think they're high in the living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we had another one here. What's your 5 to 10 year goal with both business and bodybuilding?
Be bigger and better.
I like that.
Both?
That's like a really good answer.
Yeah.
What can you do? What can you do with your business as far as growing it? Like, do you need more land, or can you build more greenhouses on your land, or like how does that work?
So right now within Oregon, so like we want to get more licenses, and I can actually have more licenses on my property. So I have 15 acres, and I have like I'm using 5 of them to do my current grow. So I could probably do 3 licenses on my property, but there is a moratorium on the licenses, so you can't get new licenses through the state. So the situation now, it's usually you go to the state, you apply, you pay a $5,000 fee, you got a license. Now people are like selling these things for like $250,000, $200,000. So they're just leveraging the piss out of these things. So it's just not worth it. So we're kind of either when the moratorium lifts or we find a reasonable license, we want to get another license, expand. So that's kind of always on our mind. And then same with retail spaces. So we have the dispensary, we have the retail space. So I want more stores, so eventually we want to do more stores. We have a lot of our in-house products where some areas we want to expand there. We've got like a hash line and, flour and pre-rolls and stuff like that. And there's just always so many avenues you can take. Like, we can get into edibles and do a lot of that stuff. So there's, drinks, and there's so many different ways to use this product. So there's, just a million one things that like, as I perfect one thing, I can move on to the next, but I'm not going to be like, you got to have one thing dialed in before you move on to the next, and I think that's where a lot of people fail.
So is a license good for like 5 acres? Like when you say you can get 3 licenses, is it an acre limit or a number of plants limit?
It's 40,000 square feet. So essentially a full acre of canopy, but I'm utilizing 5 acres between my building, my 3 greenhouses, my outdoor canopy, all my, water and like everything, the whole situation. I'm using about 5 acres of my property. So I've got about 10 acres that are sitting there, and I wouldn't need to use 5 acres for each one. I could do a 40,000 square foot plot here, 40,000 square foot plot here. I could have, 40 by 100 greenhouse over here. I wouldn't need to monopolize that much space. So I could do 3, maybe even 4 licenses on my property. So end goal, that's what we want to do. But it's an expensive business, man. People don't understand how it costs me, $250,000, $300,000 a year just to operate for the year. So as you go, I'm just going to take on another license. Okay, well, you just took on another $300,000 a year. And then you got to staff it. So like it's not something you want to just take lightly and just start piling this workload on you. But yeah, that's definitely the future. What we want to do is just kind of expand more licenses, more retail spaces. And then bodybuilding, I mean, we all know the game. I mean, I feel like I'm in this place where I got into it late. I just turned 37 years old. I'm not young, but my training age is young. So I don't really know. Do I have another 8 years in me? I have no idea. Am I going to be on stage till 45? I have no clue. So I'm just taking this year to year. I still feel like I'm a few years away from hitting my prime. And I don't feel like 40, I might hit my prime, and then what is it all going to go away? I don't know. Fuck, I have no idea. Maybe.
No, it won't.
I'd like to think no.
Going nowhere. It's going nowhere. I promise.
Yeah. So I have a positive outlook on it. I'll tell anybody straight up, like, I think I can do this for another decade. I really do. I feel young in here. I fucking, I've been taking anabolics for 4 years, 5 years maybe at this point.
Right.
So it's not like I've, been, running gas for 20 years and just, burning the candle at both ends, which is where most people are when they're hitting 40 years old. Most guys that you see at the top have been doing this since they're 20 years old.
Yep.
A question about the cannabis. Trump said something about federal legalization recently. What would change for you? Would that change anything under the state laws or? Yeah, so what it would really do is, and they've tried to pass this Safe Banking Act. So basically I get leverage for a bank account. So it's all federal. So I can't get a federal bank account because the feds, I always say that saying cannabis in a bank is like saying bomb on an airplane. They just immediately usher you out the front door. So there's certain like local credit unions that will take your money, but they'll also take $1,000 a month to do it. So there's these crazy surcharges to have a bank account. So that would change. I could get a normal home loan like an average person instead of having to jump through all the hoops that I have to. So that would be nice. And then interstate commerce. So right now I'm like locked into my state. I can only sell within Oregon. Yeah. I know there's a large demand for flower in Nevada. I know when they first legalized in Nevada, like Vegas was out of weed.
They sold so much weed so fast. Like they were like Las Vegas, Nevada was like out of weed. Like that was a real issue because that nobody in the state could keep up with the amount of weed that they were selling, which is crazy to think. And in Oregon, it's the exact opposite. There's so many people producing flower that they're not giving out more licenses, and a lot of people are wasting their products because they don't have an outlet for it. Luckily, I have my own store, so I'm vertically integrated. I can sell my own product in my own store, and we do pretty well. But I would love to be able to go and take nice Southern Oregon weed to Vegas. That'd be cool.
Fuck yeah.
You know, and I'm connected. I know people like, you know, it's all about who you know. I know Scott. You know, maybe he knows a dispensary owner, and next thing you know, I'm selling weed over there. You know, like that should be a thing you can do. I should be able to make connections like that. Like, you know, I'm connected with a lot of people in Florida. There's a lot of dispensaries in Florida.
Yep.
You know, but I'm not able to do that. I'm trapped here in Oregon. So it definitely, you know, limits the sales capacity that I'm able to do. So that's one thing that would be amazing if it changed. And the federal taxation of cannabis is fucked. If you look into Schedule 280E, it basically disallows any tax write-offs from the retail side of things because I'm selling a federally illegal product, so I cannot use tax write-offs. So it's really tricky. So if my bud tenders are locked in and they're selling the product, I cannot use their wages as a write-off. But the guy in the back rolling joints, he's creating a product. I can use his labor as a write-off. But as soon as he's behind the desk selling it, I can't. So it's just this really complicated things where I have to take everybody's hours, and I have to be really like, when you walk into the production room, you need to sign in. So I have all these numbers that I'm balancing to make sure that when I do my taxes, I can actually use this person's write-off or wages as a write-off, but this person isn't. This person never touches product. This person just comes in and cleans on the weekend. Like just weird shit like that. It's such a bunch of weird hoops that I shouldn't have to jump through because of the federal legalization issue. So it would simplify a lot of things.
I bet you too that they probably, like the IRS and stuff, looks at you guys a lot harder than any other type of business. I
just got audited for 3 years.
Oh, jeez.
So they audited both my businesses for 3 years. And it was like, they love to, and then lawyer fees and CPA fees fucking cost me almost $100,000 just to get audited.
Oof.
Just to prove to them that I'm not laundering my legal money.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fucking crazy, and the thing is they take a look and they go, we're going to disallow all these wage allocations because I didn't have it. I couldn't present like, no, this person was in my back room rolling joints, so he only packages, so that's why I use his wages. They go, you don't really have any proof of that, so I'm gonna need to throw that out. I go, oh, cool. So they disallowed a lot of my wage allocations, and it's a super messy thing. Like, cost me $100,000 just to about $100,000 just to get audited for 3 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person that loses sleep over work stress and stuff like that? I know some people get really wound and it affects them. Other people are like, hey, this is life. It's my business. I got to let it go and do the best thing for me.
I mean, I think I'm somewhere in between. I mean, I'm a pretty chill guy. I don't really get worked up.
Yeah.
But I'm also the guy that's like, I get up at 3 a.m. to pee, and I'm going, fuck, dude, I got this tax thing. I got to call my CPA in the morning, and then your mind's just running.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do kind of deal with that a little bit, where I'm just kind of like always turned on. And you guys know, we all run our own businesses, so it just never turns off. Mm-hmm. So like when you go to bed, 9 to 5, people don't really respect the 9 to 5 where you like clock out and that's it. You don't think about work. You're done. But we lay in bed all night thinking about our businesses. So
we took 2 days off, and it was a real 2 days off. It was the first time I did that in a while, man. It was weird. I always have something. There's always I'm still checking in with these guys. You know what I mean? There's always I'm still getting this. I'm taking the day off, but I've got to get this podcast up first and, do these other things.
For sure.
It's crazy, man. So
I mean, we went to Italy for 2 weeks for our anniversary, but I had a few guys in contest prep, so I was still doing check-ins.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't not. You'll be fine. I know you're 3 weeks out, but don't worry about it.
Just wing it. Just keep doing what you're doing.
It should be cool.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's always something going on. But yeah, I could be better about it. I do okay, but it's really stressful stuff when your livelihood and the livelihood of your employees, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. It's a lot to
Well, it's
balance.
because it is a lot, that's what I'm thinking. But at the same time, like being able to manage stress is part of being a good bodybuilder too. So it's like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Anyway, we have
Well,
one more though. It was,
yeah, go ahead.
does Justin believe that happiness can be achieved, and how does he define it?
Well, I think I could kind of lump this back into the business thing. So I do think happiness can be achieved. And I think a lot of people will base their success on their work and a lot of their success on the grind. You get a lot of guys that are just like, doing well for themselves. So they're just married to this grind where 60, 70-hour work weeks. And that's how they like place this level of success based on how much they can put on their shoulders and sustain. And I just kind of refuse to be like that. If I can allot myself the freedom to have my mornings are free to do my cardio and read my book with my wife, and I'm able to do that, that's success and that's happiness for me. Like if I can afford within the company to hire somebody to take over some certain things to where I'm able to allot myself some more freedoms. And sometimes I feel guilty about that. You go, fuck man, I should be doing this stuff. But you're like, but I put myself in a position where I don't have to, and that's okay. And I've had to kind of work on being okay with that. I've had to kind of work on, not feeling guilty because you're not the guy doing all the work, because coming up, I had to be the guy doing all the work. When we first started, that was it. I was working full-time painting houses with my dad, and then I would get off work at 5 o'clock, and my brother and I would drive to our farm and put headlights on the farm so we could water our plants. We'd work until 10 o'clock at night, and then we would leave, and then we'd go to the gym. My brother and I would work out for like 10:30 p.m. till midnight, and then we'd come home, and then we'd be up at 6:30 in the morning for work. We did that for years, so like it was, we put in the years of being the guys that were just always on the ground, and now I'm in a position where, you guys ask me, hey, can you do this podcast at 11? I go, you know what, I can chill and talk with my buddies for a little bit today.
Right.
Everything's okay. I've got employees, and I feel like for me, that's kind of like I've been able to look at that as my version of success. And obviously, we're all still working. This is work. This is for bodybuilding, the business of bodybuilding. I'm getting myself out there, and it's important for in a different way. It's important,
Yeah.
But I've been able to look at like my career with bodybuilding and the success I've had with my businesses, and it actually has brought me happiness. Money isn't necessarily everything, and money isn't going to make you happy, but being financially stable and having the luxuries that money affords you, hey man, it's pretty nice.
Concur.
Yeah.
Now let me give you a little more philosophical. I have my health, I have my family, I have my wife, and that's all you need, right? That's happiness. So there's that aspect as well.
Well, Dusty,
Very
we're
nice.
going to get into it. He brought up his wife. We're
There
not
you
allowed
go.
to talk
Yeah.
about our wives on
Yeah,
the podcast.
you don't know about that part. I get in
Dusty
trouble every
hasn't
week.
mentioned. Does Dusty mention Nikki already?
I don't know.
You just did. Now we're in trouble.
He held off.
Damn it. Now we're in trouble. Yeah, I have a fan that that's what he keeps track of, Justin. Is any
Oh,
mentions.
so how many times you? Yeah.
Yeah. And he brings it
He
up.
doesn't
And I
like it.
love it.
He
I
doesn't
told
like it
him.
at all.
So we just we're trying to figure out when his divorce happened and what bodybuilder she left him for.
Yeah.
He'll appreciate that we mentioned him.
Oh, it's all in good fun. It's all in good
Yeah.
fun. Okay, well, thanks, man. We really appreciate your time. Even
Yeah, of course.
I know
Hey.
we spent a little extra time setting up today too.
That's
so that was
fine. I
nice.
don't mind.
Thank you.
I had
We
a
got
good
to
time.
chat off air.
But hey, I promised you guys a poop story, so I do have a poop story.
Nice.
So
Last 5-minute crew.
yeah, so I've got a handful of these that I can pull out at any time. But, I was just thinking about this one today. Now that we were kind of talking about work and me working with my dad.
So happy.
So I was 17 years old. I'm in high school, and at the time, my buddy lived with us. He was just kind of like his parents were kind of junkies, and he was just a bit of a castaway. And he lived with us, and he was just like, he was my best friend, my childhood best friend, and he lived with us. And during the summers, we'd work with my dad. We paint homes for a living, and or he painted homes for a living. So one morning, we're up, we're getting ready for work, and I was always a pain in the ass. My dad's always yelling at us, what the fuck, let's get the hell out of here. And we had that bright idea, we're going to go bounce on the trampoline. I had a trampoline in the backyard, and at the time, my buddy would always double bounce me, and we'd see how fucking high I could do a backflip. And just fucking double bounce me and rocket me in the air, and I would just do these big arching backflips, and just some silly fun thing we did. But I thought maybe, I know we're running late to work, but hold on, let me go get this backflip real quick. I think we can get a good one. So
that's something you do when you're 17.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're
I'm
gonna get this
relate to this,
backflip.
actually.
Yeah, so chill out, Dad. I'm doing a backflip. Jeez. And,
Relax.
And I remember specifically my dad going, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, God, come on, Dad. Being a total buzzkill. And my
Backflip
buddy,
a day keeps a doctor away.
yeah, that's a saying. Actually, they do say that in some countries, in Eastern countries. So we warm up, a couple double bounces, boom, I start getting up there, boom, and then he fucking nails one, and I remember it was a good one. And I arch, and I just feel my bowels evacuate, and I'm just filling my pants with shit. So I'm just like full arch backflip, and I'm just like spraying shit down my back of my pants. And then I land, and it's just like it all comes out. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh. I'm like, my pants are just completely filled with poop. And
and it's coming out the bottom of the pant legs.
I was wearing shorts. So it's like summertime. I got my paint shorts on, and I'm like, I got poop dripping down the back of my legs. And I gotta walk into my house, and my dad's waiting for me. He goes, what the fuck? What the fuck? We gotta go. So he leaves, and I gotta take a shower. I'm just covered in shit, and I'm like waddling to the bathroom. So I go in, I take a shower, and I get ready, and he, I think he like left me the keys to his truck. I didn't even have my license at the time. I was just a loser kid. And so me and my buddy, we drive into work later, and driving to work, now I'm got fresh underwear on, I'm all good. And I park the truck. My buddy runs out and runs up to the job site because he's worried that my dad's gonna be pissed, which my dad is pissed. Fucking son goes and plays on trampoline and shits his pants. He's pretty upset. Makes him late to work. So he runs up to the job site. We're doing like this big custom home, and the contractor's out there. And I don't know this until later, but my buddy runs up and like meets the contractor. Goes, hey, sorry, Justin shit his pants earlier. That's why we're late. Shit himself. And so I come walking up and go, hey, how you doing? Shakes my hand. I don't know this, but like, it's the contractor, the electrician, the drywallers are there. These are all like rough, hard, fucking blue collar guys. And I'm like this kid, and I remember I'm wearing like these short, like Daisy Duke short, cut off short shorts. And we were like silly. We used to like cut our shorts short and like go to work with these white painter shorts. And the shorter, the gayer, the better, So he just sees this like young kid running up who had just shit his pants, and then I find out that he tells him, and I'm like, oh my God, you told him I pooped my pants? Like, I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh, I was so upset. Like, we all went to lunch, and I was like at lunch with these guys, and I was the kid who pooped my pants. I felt like I was walking around all day with poop still in my pants. I was just so ashamed. And it's funny, and I'm thinking of this as I'm telling this story. I was like so upset that these like few guys knew I pooped my pants, and here I am telling it to thousands of people.
Oh, that's
We're gonna do it.
Years later, I've come to own that this is just part of me, and it's okay. Everyone poops their pants, and it just feels good to tell these stories and get them off.
That's a fantastic way to do it too. Mid-air, mid-backflip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not many
Full
people can say they
evacuation.
did that.
It was like a really smooth exit, and then at the end it was very violent. Like, wham! Because I knew I shit my pants halfway through the flip, so I didn't like soak up the landing. I like landed real stiff.
Yeah.
And I just like I remember just shooting the rest of it out, and I was like, oh. I'm like hosing off the trampoline. My dad's yelling at me. Yeah, so
I can just picture
That's
the look on your dad's face to begin with.
Brilliant.
Like, why are you even on the trampoline? And then
Yeah.
it's like one of those
yeah.
moments. This is why I told you, kid, get in the truck.
What's funny is as a kid, we go, Dad's a dick, you know, he's yelling at us. I remember telling my mom, like, Dad is yelling at me. I'm like, and then I think back, I'm like, dude, I'm lucky my dad wasn't beating the shit out of me.
Right?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. Like, this is real stuff. Like, we had to be at a big job site. He had a huge job we were doing, meeting the contractor today. And I go shit my pants.
So
Make him late to work.
I got to bring up one more question real quick, because Ron asked you earlier if you were surprised, you know, if 17-year-old self would have seen you here. But now I'm realizing that your dad, when you shit your pants today, is much more surprised with where you are in life.
Yeah.
You are.
Absolutely.
I think I surpassed all the expectations of every adult in my life.
You have some
You set the
great
bar
shit
low,
stories.
you know. So there was that.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic one.
I've got a few more, so next time you have me on, I'll just
I still
let
think
it
the
get through.
one by the roadside when you had food poisoning,
Yeah, yeah, I
that's
think
still the
that's-
best one.
Yeah, that's fucking world class poop story, dude. I mean, it doesn't really.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that.
You
We're
weren't
gonna
near a
have to-
shower there.
We're gonna have to rate them at some point, though, because there is a little magic to holding up a plane. Also, I mean, you've just got a lot of great stories.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I said this last time. If you're going to be known for something, we want to be able to have, you know, some identity within this space. You know, we're our own men, and here I am. I'm holding all the poop stories and creating a legacy. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
I'm glad the
That made
5 Minute
whole
Crew is
thing
so
worthwhile.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Yeah. Last 5 minute crew. I'm saving it for you guys. Special for you.
We try to keep something for them, and sometimes we got nothing by the end of the episode. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I figured I was kind of holding on to it the whole time, curating how I was going to say it. And,
Holding on to it the whole time, no pun intended.
yeah. And I just couldn't hold
Finally
on.
drops the best shit at the end.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right.
Well, that's episode 300, which we can't believe. Scott's
awesome.
still got to make sure he inserts a little bit of us from 5 years ago, which is just incredible. 5 years blows my mind.
You know, I mentioned this to Scott before we started recording. So around that time, 2019, that was the first time I ever competed.
Yeah, I
So
was going to say, what were you doing?
So I had just competed in my first show, and like I won the overall, and like I was feeling pretty good about myself. And the next year I did USA's, but 2019 I just competed, and I watched your show religiously. And I honestly,
That's
I learned
wild.
I learned a lot from you guys, and I felt like, you know, a lot of how I train and like my approach and like the low volume stuff, that all came from you and Dusty. I'm serious. I mean that. I watched you guys and I listened to a lot of what you had to say, and it helped me.
That's wild.
That's
So
incredible,
thank you.
That's
man.
awesome.
Crazy to hear. That's crazy to hear. It's been a really fun evolution, and we've just tried to keep it simple and have fun. And, you know, and I know we talk about bodybuilding sometimes, but it's kind of the world through the lens of, you know, guys that love hardcore bodybuilding, and that's
Fuck yeah.
why.
Yeah.
Let's just try to keep it. I know that a lot of podcasts maybe have more of an agenda, like we're going to give people really quality drug information, or we're going to focus on the top 5 of every single show, or
Fuck those
and
guys.
we're really bad at some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
But we're consistently bad, which is why we've been here for 300 episodes.
No, you guys have a no bullshit podcast. It's like, you know, you're never spewing bad information. It's just, you know, from decades of experience, and I think a lot of people value it and value the authenticity that you guys bring. So I know I'm one of them. So
appreciate
thank you
that.
guys. Yeah,
I think one of our main things is we don't really have any space in any of our lives for like negative focused topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not here to bash anybody or you know, expose anybody or any of that sort of, like, I know some podcasts kind of that's where they make their mint, and that's fine if that's their
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, appreciate it, Justin. Thanks for
Of course,
coming on.
man. No,
Look
thanks for
forward to
having me,
having you a 5th time or whatever it will be.
Yep. I'm just gonna think of a cool way to shit my pants. So next time,
Oh, I believe in you.
I can figure something out.
The Olympia is coming. I'm just
Olympia is
saying.
coming. That expo.
Yeah.
Just take the long day at that expo with restaurant food in your belly.
Yeah, good food out there that
You
can
know,
definitely trigger some.
Try a new
onset
taco
diarrhea.
spot.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
It's got to be a new taco spot you can hit, and then go straight to the expo for 8 hours. Okay.
That's
be
it,
fun.
baby. Yeah, that's easy.
Okay. Okay.
All right, guys.
See you,
Yeah, well,
buddy.
thanks for having me, man. I
My
appreciate
dogs
it.
are both zooming. Okay, remember everybody, Justin Shier, hit him up on Instagram.
Yes.
Lift weights the way he does.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Well, Scott, what do you think of the program?
I'll let you guys know after I edit it. Let me get to that part first because I have no idea what this is going to look like on the back end. But
Well,
I'm sure it'll be good.
I hope it goes okay. I had a lot of fun. That was a good episode.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, man. We said it on the air, but thank you again for taking the time and all the patience.
Yeah, that was
too,
a good
man.
2 hours of your day. So boom.
Yeah,
thank
no
you.
worries, dude. I don't give a shit. I don't even go to work anymore.
You mean you don't ever leave it? I know what that means.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Well, guys,
All right,
I
cool.
appreciate
All
it.
right, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
buddy.
See you guys.
I'll see you guys.
Likewise.
See ya.